Hey guys, welcome back to Sports with Mono and Mono. It's June 11th, 2022, and as always, here with my brother Steve, who is the other Mono.
Good morning, everybody.
Summer day in New Jersey.
That is correct.
How was your week, Steve?
Week is good. I like the weekends better, though.
Don't we all? Don't we all? So listen, we got a lot of stuff to talk about today. It's a really busy day in sports, a lot of good stuff going on, and just want to start off with the monologue, and it's pretty simple. And I know, Steve, you and I have talked about this guy, Aaron Donald of the Rams. And when I think about this guy, and we've talked about it before, when you talk about great football players, this guy's great. And we know that the salaries in sports are just astronomically off the charts, but you know what? This wasn't like an ugly thing. He was holding out. He was just basically saying, I think I'm the best player in football, which I agree. And the Rams paid him, and I just think that's how it's supposed to be done. And of course somebody will top that sooner or later. But when we talk about dominating football players in that game, we think of, and like I mentioned before, Lawrence Taylor, I think, was the most dominant football player I've ever seen. But when we talk about Aaron Donald, we can actually bring him into the conversation with guys like Bob Lilly, Merlin Olsen, Reggie White, Bruce Smith. That's elite. We've talked about other guys like Howie Long. He had two, maybe three really, really good years, but not great years. But this Aaron Donald, and he's actually been a classy guy, and I'm just happy for him. Like I said, everybody's getting the money, but the Rams just said, you know what, you are the best player in the game, and we're going to pay you. Conversation over, and now he's the highest paid non-quarterback in the NFL. And of course, the monologue is sponsored by Coriano Trucking of Summerhill, New York. Any thoughts, Steve, on Aaron Donald?
Well, I think it's refreshing, first of all, that a team recognizes finally, that they have the best player non-quarterback in the league.
Yeah.
And this is not even a debate. This is by far. And we can just go back a few months, back to the Super Bowl and how it ended, right?
Yeah.
So Aaron Donald makes the game altering tackle or made Burrow very uncomfortable. I think he's a 3-time Defensive Player of the Year,
Yeah.
right? I think he's got more years left in him, and it's only going to get better. This guy's unblockable.
Yep.
And did anybody see this coming out of the University of Pittsburgh, that Aaron Donald will
No.
eventually, be in the conversation with Lawrence Taylor? No.
No.
But that's why you draft. That's why you scout. That's why
You get some hit, some miss.
I was just going to say that's why you have your Andre Bruces and your Ryan Leafs and
Jamarcus
Russell.
Russell.
You have absolute busts.
Yeah.
But again, it's refreshing that it didn't have to get contentious.
That's my point.
And it's just clear
That's my
fact.
point.
Aaron Donald, you're the best. So we're going to
Yep.
pay you like the best. Let's move on and go defend our championship.
Yeah, no, I think it really was just kind of went under the radar. But when we talk about it, and I got a friend at work, Abe Vallejo, who's a diehard Packers fan, and when I bring up Reggie White, you and I in Sports with Mono and Mono have our own Pro Bowl. We don't, we're not the sports writers that vote because a guy gives them good interviews or not. But when we talk about the greats, and you of all people would know, like, to put him in the same conversation with a Bob Lilly and a Reggie White is just, I mean, that's as high praise as you can get. So,
Right. And I just want to say, Bob Lilly to me is obviously one of my favorite players. He's a Dallas Cowboy, but objectively, Bob Lilly was just, off the charts.
exactly.
But I do have to say, Lawrence Taylor remains number one. Reggie White is right there, and now
Yep.
Aaron Donald has to be considered number three.
Absolutely.
Rob, what do you think?
Real quick, guys. CBS Sports, after the signing of the contract, listed the top 10 or top 15 greatest NFL defensive players of all time, and they had Reggie White above Lawrence Taylor.
Huh?
Listen, as much as I love Reggie White, I mean, there was nobody more dominant and who was the focus of a team's game plan when they played him than Lawrence Taylor. You know, his off the field shenanigans aside, he was unstoppable, period.
Listen, folks, it's not that far-fetched that somebody could consider that. But my point is, nobody will convince me otherwise that Lawrence Taylor remains.
I agree. That's why I want to bring the point up.
Yeah. Okay.
Love to hear from the audience on this one.
Oh, please. I would absolutely love to hear. And like I said, if Reggie White is 2 or 3, hey, that's still top 5. And you're right, Steve. Before he's said and done, we could be putting Aaron Donald in that same conversation. So let's move on to the NBA. And we had game 4 last night, and the Golden State Warriors, we're going 7, right? So I'm sticking with the Warriors. I'm sure you're sticking with the Celtics, but what are your thoughts on the series so far?
I think it's fixed, and Stephen Curry scored 43 in the NBA Finals, and therefore he will get the MVP, and therefore he will then be considered one of the
greatest player of all time.
I'm being facetious based on last week's conversation about does Stephen Curry need a Finals MVP to cement his resume. Well, he's well on his way to getting that. I'm sticking to the Celtics despite last night's. Listen, Golden State earned that victory. Boston had it in hand for most of the game. They outplayed them, but Curry and company wouldn't go away, and Steph Curry, became Steph Curry. And it's just when I watch this guy shoot with the just ease and beauty and so on and so forth, it's a pleasure to watch. I must say, for me,
it is. There's no question about it. I mean, some of these things were, he's got guys knocking him over. He's falling to the ground, and he's just putting it in. It's really cool to see. Actually, I'll give you that. But I'm sticking with the Warriors based on their experience, and that Curry has the potential to lock up the MVP if he goes off on the next 2 games and they win this series. But when I look at the Celtics, I'm not discounting them at all. When they got 5 powerhouse guys that are on the floor, they just haven't been able to, put these guys away. And the experience of Curry, and listen, Thompson hasn't been playing, lights out like he could, and he's still going to be a figure in this series, I think.
I agree.
Yeah.
I think it's going to go 7. It's just trending that way. I mean, these guys are battling. This is a good finals. This is not the Lakers Showtime or where that team was so unbeatable to be fair here. So this is a very good final. Again, it's been a long time for Boston since 2008. Paul Pierce and Garnett and Doc Rivers, that team. But they're not going away. Tatum, Marcus Smart, Jaylen Brown had a good game last night, and I really think it's going to go 7.
Yeah. There was just one thing it's a pet peeve of mine in the NBA, and it was actually Steph Curry. They were scrambling for ball, and he's on the ground writhing in pain, like his leg just got broken in half, like a Theismann kind of thing. And it just reminds me of soccer. Every single time a guy gets knocked down, he's rolling around, and then Steph Curry, he doesn't miss 1 game. So how bad could that have been? And you look at the NHL, and these guys just beat each other up every other night, and they don't even miss a shift. It drives me crazy. It drives me nuts.
Yeah, but it's been the prima donna way for a long time now.
Oh, but you and I, we've rolled ankles, we've broken legs, and not one of us. We lay on the ground, go, oh, I broke my leg.
That's it. We play tackle football in the middle of the street.
Yeah.
Literally,
The asphalt jungle. That's right. Yeah.
literally.
Yeah. So just a couple other things. Like I said, we got 3 games probably left in this series. It's probably going to go 7. I'm sticking with the Warriors. You're sticking with the Celtics. Couple other notes in the NBA. Darvin Ham takes over for the LeBron Lakers. So obviously he was handpicked because LeBron said, listen, you can have the job, but I'm the coach and I'm also the commissioner of the league. So you do as I say. I like Darvin Ham's press conference. Nice guy. Glad he's getting the chance. But we know this is just a figurehead job for LeBron James and whatever his strategy is to get the Lakers back into relevance in this league. You know?
Hey, the guy deserves a head coaching gig. There's no
Sure.
question about it. This guy's an intense guy. I mean, the press conference aside, it's all sugar plums and fairies. Is far from it. Yes, I agree that Commissioner James has to sign off on this. There's no question about it.
Yep. Yeah.
I wish it was otherwise, but it's not. The good news is Russell Westbrook is down with the move too. Russ had a real tough year for.
Oh, Russ signed off on this?
Yeah, it's been a tough year for Russ. Making $47 million, and Russ is going to refocus himself. He's assured the Laker family that it's going to be a different Russell next year.
He's going to reinvent himself, if you
Yes,
will.
he may actually start to play defense. Actually, might be in the equation here. So it's a win-win. But all kidding aside, Darvin Ham,
Yep.
good pick.
And how about this? It came down to D'Antonio and Kenny Atkinson for the Hornets job, and Michael Jordan picked Kenny Atkinson. We both thought Kenny Atkinson was a real good coach. His record wasn't great, but that was before Durant and Irving got there. But
I mean, the Nets were horrible, and he had to deal with the growing pains of that. And Kenny Atkinson, by all accounts, is well respected in the league.
Yep.
I'm going to say Mike D'Antoni's advanced age probably factored into this a bit, I would think.
Yeah.
So the Hornets have a new coach, and Michael Jordan made the decision, and
Yep.
That's it.
So, Steve, let's move on to the ice because we've been watching some unbelievable hockey. Obviously, you and I are Ranger fans, and it was kind of getting all ready for overtime. And the other night, right? It was Game 5, and they just let it slip away, and it was the 2-time defending Tampa Bay Lightning that just pounce on those opportunities. And when I see what's gone on, we talked about this last week about Vasilevsky not playing like the greatest goaltender in the world. Well, the past 3 games, he has shown why he's the best goalie in the world, and he's actually outplayed Igor Shesterkin. And I think that's been the key here. Shesterkin was stopping those kind of shots all year, but these ones are getting through, and Vasilevsky turned it around. And with Rangers are down 3-2 with Game 6 tonight. What are your thoughts?
Well, Tampa Bay obviously had a long layoff before the series started, so it took a couple games for them to get their engine going. Vasilevsky being one of them.
Yeah.
Has he outplayed Shesterkin? Yeah. I mean, yes, they're up. I'm so disappointed that Ryan Strome in the last game with that wide open feed doesn't score that. It's been keeping me up for the last 48 hours. Yeah. Defensively, the Rangers look tired. Shesterkin is getting screened, but Tampa Bay is working for these goals. Okay, let's make no mistake about it.
They are.
This Palat guy is like a real grinder. Like he's the type of guy you want on your team.
He's like a Bobby Nystrom guy that seems to always come up with the big goals.
Yeah, I'm just gonna relay one thing. John Cooper, the coach of Tampa, in his press conference, there, I think it was yesterday or so forth. Um, he made a great statement and philosophy. He said, "We're here to win the series, and we don't care when we win the series." Right? Meaning, and I love that line. He goes, We don't care when we win the series. If it goes to triple overtime in Game 7, they don't care. They're showing up and they will battle.
Oh,
So this
big
Kucherov is outstanding, and I've known this. We've known that for a few years now. This
Yeah.
guy's a special player when we talk of Connor McDavid and Sydney and so on and so forth. Kucherov kind of gets lost in the shuffle, in my opinion. But you're seeing a super talented hockey player, man.
No doubt
This
about
guy
it.
is really good.
I mean, when I've been watching this game, I mean, it's just amazing when you're talking about the NHL. Like they're on defense, and then within 1 second, they're back on offense, and they're just putting the pressure on the Rangers. And I think you're right. I looked at this almost from the same perspective you did, Steve. That the defense somehow looks tired, and Tampa Bay is capitalizing on this, and with the guy between the pipes playing the way he is, it's going to be an uphill battle for the Rangers. But they've been down, 3-1, 3-2 before, so it's not out of the realm of possibility. But it's been a great series. Really?
Yeah, I just don't have a good feeling that the Rangers can win tonight. Of course, I'm rooting with all my heart that they do. And if they get to Game 7, like any other Game 7, anything can happen, right? Um, and if the Rangers actually win this series, they would be the first team, and I think in history of the NHL, to come back with these deficits in rounds 1, 2, and 3. But Tampa's at home. They're there. They're there to put their foot on the Rangers' throats, and of course the Rangers can win, but I don't like the chances. And again, the season that we've had is nothing to be ashamed of or anything like that.
No.
We shouldn't even be here. A lot of us think so. It's a building block for the future, but let's try and win tonight. And I'm just being objective that as a better handicapper, I like Tampa at home.
Yep. And I mean, these guys are putting it all out there, and the Colorado Avalanche are resting up, playing golf, waiting for this to end. So they're going to be rested, and it's whoever it's going to be. And I'm not ruling the Rangers out because they have come back before, but you're right. The odds are absolutely against them on the road in Tampa, but they could pull it off. And like you said, Game 7, it could go either way. It's just been a great series.
There's no question that they have a chance to win, but I just think it's a remote chance.
I know where you're going. Yep. Just one note, Steve. You and I talked about this 3 years ago when Pat Maroon won a Stanley Cup with the St. Louis Blues, and now he's won two cups with the Tampa Bay Lightning. And it was an interesting fact, the Sean McDonough fact, that he's the first guy since members of the Islanders, which had ever been Bossy and Trottier, to win 3 Stanley Cups in a row. And I immediately said, wait a minute, Gretzky and Edmonton won, but the final cup that Edmonton won, Wayne Gretzky was the Los Angeles Kings. So,
That's right.
But how about that for Pat Maroon? We're talking over 40 years, and he's got 3 cups in a row. That's quite an accomplishment, and he's a really stand-up guy.
No, absolutely. I noticed or heard that comment, and I think it's cool.
Yeah.
Pat Maroon has been a long-time NHLer and well respected, and that's a cool thing to if you're a hockey player,
Right.
to be part of 3 in a row. That's pretty cool.
And now, but that puts it into perspective about how great those Islander team was with Gillies and Bossy and Trottier. They won 4 Stanley Cups in a row, and that's amazing.
And again, what's even cooler about Pat Maroon is when he won with the Blues, is he's from St. Louis, right?
Exactly.
Let's not forget that. His first cup, and exhilarating that must have been for him. And now he's getting a little spoiled. He's
Right.
getting a little, I'm kidding, but
Well, and also for our Boston fans, I was kind of surprised that Bruce Cassidy got fired by Boston. They're a really good team, but I guess, being pretty good isn't good enough in Boston. So listen, Bruce Cassidy is a hockey guy. He'll land on his feet. He could probably end up in Philadelphia or something like that. But I thought that was a surprise.
yeah. Well, Cam Neely is the president of for the Bruins. And Cam Neely was superstar with the Bruins for hurt his knee when I went to school up there. So I got to see Cam Neely, Ray Bork, and that Bruin team. Cam Neely was a hell of a hockey player, tough guy
No
too.
doubt. No doubt.
Right. So Bruce Cassidy's record, top of my head, it was like 267 and 130 or something.
Yeah, pretty damn good. Yeah.
Made the playoffs all 6 years.
Yep.
Barry Trotz is still out there. I have to think, right? If you're going to fire Bruce Cassidy, you better fire a guy that's won the Stanley Cup, and it's Barry Trotz. And I'm kind of miffed, to be honest, that Las Vegas, the Golden Knights, haven't signed this guy, or that Trotz is not in the fold yet. But again, he doesn't have to rush. He can field any offer that he wants.
Well, and he's going to
Trotz could wind up in Philadelphia, like you said.
Exactly.
If he does, Cassidy, I can see Cassidy in Vegas or vice versa.
Yeah.
But Cam Neely doesn't fire Bruce Cassidy unless he's got his eyes on a Barry Trotz.
Absolutely right. Absolutely right. Yep. But I thought that was interesting. So let's move on to Major League Baseball, Steve. And we were talking about this last week, right? The Goldschmidt and Turners and their hitting streaks. And, my first statement was Joe DiMaggio can rest in peace. It's never going to be broken. And it was actually broken the next game by both of them. So they got 25, 26 games. I mean, that just tells you how difficult it is.
I was being a little more gracious, giving them a little more rope. I said they could conceivably get up to 40, but no chance they break DiMaggio's record.
Yeah. But how about this surprise? Is it a surprise? No, not when you're losing 12, 13 games in a row that Joe Madden gets fired by California. They started out like finally they're going to make the playoffs because they haven't made the playoffs since 2015 or something. And Joe Madden is a baseball guy. So I don't know and again, Mike Trout is probably going to end up getting hurt again. And outside of Ohtani, they don't have much there. So is it Joe Madden's fault? Probably not. Was it Joe Girardi's fault in Philadelphia, who's won 7 games since he got fired? I don't know. Probably not. But both of them got fired, and that's what's going on in Major League Baseball. No surprise, I thought. I mean, Joe Madden's got to be what, 70-something years old? I don't even know how old he is. But what happened to my partner there, Rob?
I don't know. He dropped off for a second. I'll wait till he gets back on.
So with Major League Baseball, and this is finally something, and we've talked about this, Rob, a bunch of times with, the cost of going to a game and why it's going to a game, but it's starting to happen now that, even Yankee games on Fridays and Saturdays now, either you get Apple TV or you don't get the game anymore. And it's a trend that's never going to stop. And ultimately it's going to be pay more. We're already paying $250 a month for cable TV. And now we got to get Apple TV if we want to watch the Yankees play on the weekend. It drives me crazy. Drives me nuts.
Yeah, it's getting nuts. I mean, it's getting so hard for the average fan to watch anymore.
It is. I mean, I think it was on Apple TV Friday night last week, and then it was on Peacock, premium. So you got to pay. You want to watch the Yankee games? No more Channel 11, no more, free TV. You got to pay.
I can imagine if my dad was still alive, wanting to watch his Yankees, and he can't find it anywhere. Can you imagine that generation who's not tech savvy, how they can't find these stations?
Exactly. I thought about that same thing when the Mets, because the Mets are doing the same thing. Some of the Mets games are going to be on Apple TV. And I started to think, right, if my father was still around, he'd go, I don't even know how do I find this? How do I do this kind of thing? But you know what you have to do? You have to pay now to watch them. And, 5 years from now, we're going to have to pay $50 just to watch the Super Bowl on TV. It's going to be crazy.
And it was funny too. It's like, I remember about a month ago, my mom was like, "Oh my God, the Amazon went up." Yeah, because they got the NFL now on Thursday nights. That's why, and she doesn't realize that kind of stuff, right? We do. We're in the business. But the average Amazon person noticing that their yearly fee went up by 25%. Now you know why.
Yeah.
They got the NFL now. You're going to pay for the NFL.
But it's a wave that we saw coming, but now it's actually here. That's my point, So, Rob, while Steve's working out his issues here, the NFL, and I wanted to bring this up when Steve gets back on, because, again, we talked about it in the monologue with his contracts and guys holding out. And, so now Dalton Schultz is going to hold out. He wants to be the highest paid tight end. And I'm going, wait a minute, you had one, maybe 2 good years, and all of a sudden you want to be Cooper Kupp, who just got, they just emptied the vault for him. What is going on with these guys?
Dalton Schultz is barely the number 1 tight end on his own team.
He had a really good year last year, and I guess Prescott really likes him. But, I mean, now he wants to be – and, again, if these teams, like I think it was the Cleveland Browns just signed Nabahu, whatever it was, the tight end. So they're giving these guys the money. But, the Rams did exactly with Cooper Kupp that they did with Aaron Donald, saying, we got a player here that helped us win a Super Bowl and can win another Super Bowl for us. So without even, holding out, and again, with the discussions and getting contentious, the Rams gave him $75 million.
Well, the Rams have a 2-year window to win one more Super Bowl because they're spending a lot of money that, it's going to hurt their team in 2 years when they can't sign anybody else.
Well, I'm wondering how they could, how this money is structured and how they're not over the salary cap paying these guys this kind of money with Stafford, Kupp, Donald, Jalen Ramsey. I mean, look at the payroll. Is this creative accounting, or does guaranteed money not count against the salary cap? I don't know. Never been able to figure it out.
Yeah, it's all crazy. I mean, this money that's out there right now for these sports is just...
It's nuts. It's nuts. So listen, a couple other things that's going on today, and I wanted to bring this up. Obviously, Rafael Nadal wins his 14th French Open. I mean, this guy is defying time. It's amazing to me. And we could see it. He's 36 now. And like I said, how many more of these does he have in him? I mean, he basically said he had no feeling in one of his foot, in his left foot, and still won the French Open. I mean, wow. I know you're not a tennis guy, Rob, but you got to admire from an athlete perspective that this guy belongs in the upper echelon of all-time great sports figures. No doubt.
No, I mean, absolutely right. I mean, think about the two greatest athletes that seem to get overlooked, are the top men's tennis player in the world, right?
Yep.
And Serena Williams on the women's side, she, all the stuff she's won is kind of gets overlooked by, because it's not a team sport.
No, I get that, and Serena deserves her place on the pedestal of all-time dominant athletes, no doubt. And I remember watching Chrissy Everett and Martina Navratilova and then Steffi Graf, and I'm saying nobody's going to ever break the records that these guys, that those girls did. But Serena certainly has. And, I don't know that we're going to see Roger Federer again because he's up there in age too. But I admire this guy, Rafael Nadal, and what he's accomplished. It really is cool. I really think it's great. Rob, today there's a horse race today. You mentioned it before the show, and it's one of my favorite races for a couple of reasons. Obviously, there's no Triple Crown allure today, which is unfortunate. But it's the longest race of the Triple Crown series. It's 1.5 miles at Belmont Park. And, yes, it's lacking the intrigue, but the Kentucky Derby winner, Rich Strike, who was an 80-1 winner, is back in after skipping the Preakness. So I really don't think he's going to be able to pull this off. He was 80-1 in the Derby for a reason, and sometimes a horse wins. But I was kind of hoping for the matchup with him and Early Voting, who won the Preakness, but Early Voting's not running in today. So listen, Rich Strike has as good. He's not even the favorite in the race, but I don't know. I don't see him winning this race. A horse that I've kind of been on, I picked one of my horses for the Derby was Mo Donegal. I like him today. I like it's kind of a short field, not a powerhouse field. So I'm going back into Mo Donegal's camp, and I like him and Barber Road as a 1-2 finish in this race. And listen, Rich Strike, it makes for an intriguing thing to say, was this a one and done thing? What are your thoughts? Who do you like today in the Belmont?
Yeah, I mean, I'm rooting for. I'm a big underdog guy, so definitely Rich Strike. I'm going to root for, and
yeah.
I must have watched the replays of that race. The Derby about 10, 12, 15 times. It's so awesome, especially the aerial view when you see from above what he did.
That was exactly the same video that I saw, the aerial view of him chasing these two horses down and winning. It was great.
He was like a running back. He was like a running back following his blockers through the holes, right? He kept
if you think about it, when, the fact that he came from so far behind and had enough mustard, to beat them, maybe he is bred for a longer race, which sets up well for him at Belmont. But again, it's 1.5 miles. It's one of the toughest races. And, I wish there was a little bit more intrigue. But like I said, with Rich Strike going for this again, to see if it was a kind of a fluke, I think it sets up well for a good Belmont today.
Would he draw extra people into the stands today?
Well, I think we kind of even touched on this, certainly not the buzz. People are dying to get back, right? There hasn't been a Belmont Stakes for 2 years. And, coming off something like American Pharoah 7 years ago, where it was just, the largest audience at all. Yeah, I think more people will go to see Rich Strike to see if he could win this, but it's not going to be the fervor that, American Pharoah or a Triple Crown race would have at Belmont. And they say don't drive because nobody wants to drive anyway, but take mass transit if you're going to Elmont, New York for the race. They post is probably 6 o'clock, which drives me crazy. It's a little late in the day, but should be a great race. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, I'll be watching.
Yep. So Rob, let's move on. And again, I don't want to harp on it because we talked about it last week, this whole LIV tour and the PGA tour. And since then, after Dustin Johnson became kind of the first big name to join this tour. And again, it's just absurd money. You're talking, high seven figures for these guys to play. And the PGA is taking its stand. And a lot of people say, well, wait a minute, why shouldn't they be able to play on the PGA tour? And again, I say, nobody's saying you can't go and play on the LIV tour, but the PGA tour, you're a competitor of them. That's what the PGA has the absolute right to say. You could play anywhere you want. We're not forbidding you to play, but you're a competitor of ours, and we're choosing not to allow you to play on ours. However, here's the caveat. The 4 major golf championships are not run by the PGA. So these LIV guys, the Mickelsons and DeChambeau, that was another big name that got
Yes.
lured over. They gave him $125 million. And I know they even offered Tiger Woods like probably $500 million to play. I'm not opposed to these guys taking the money if they can get it, but the consequences are, and here's one that kind of gets overlooked: the Ryder Cup. And if you're a golf fan, you know how cool the Ryder Cup it certainly is to me. And they're not going to be able to play for their home countries in this because of this. And you could say what you want, that the PGA is being, and they may lose this battle in court from a legal perspective. They could potentially lose this, and but it's just been an ugly look for golf the past few weeks with, Phil Mickelson now, who's, we know why he's doing it, because he's got $40 million to recoup from the Vegas casinos. We know why Greg Norman's doing this, because Greg Norman once had the biggest private yacht in the world, and you need money to pay for that. So money is obviously what Steve and I have always talked about. It's the most important thing, and these guys are getting it. But, to me, I'm a traditionalist, and I love the PGA Tour. And Arnold Palmer and one of our loyal listeners, Mike Garvey, said Ben Hogan must be spinning in his grave over this. It's just an ugly look for golf. It really is.
Have you watched it all?
I absolutely will not watch it.
No?
I'm a PGA guy, and that's where my loyalties lie, and that's my choice. Right now, I don't even know how to watch it because I have no interest in watching it at all.
I'm only asking because they were saying there's supposed to be some broadcasting tricks for the fans, like different things that you don't normally see on golf broadcasts.
Right, because it's changing. The LIV, you know what the LIV actually stands for? That's 54 in Roman numerals. So they only play 3 rounds of golf. On the PGA Tour, it's 72 holes, 4 rounds.
Okay.
So again, it's no surprise that it was a surprise that Dustin Johnson went. But now in hindsight, I go, when DeChambeau goes, a lot of big names are going to do it because the money is just so enticing. But PGA Tour is where my loyalty lies. And I don't know if these guys, I haven't heard whether or not they're playing in the U.S. Open, which starts on Thursday up in Brookline, Mass at the Country Club, which is famous, obviously, for the old Ryder Cup. I want to say what year it was, 96, when the U.S. kind of broke some rules as far as etiquette goes. Justin Leonard sank that great putt, and they ended up coming back and beating the Europeans, but they didn't handle it with a lot of sportsmanship, which was a little kind of a black mark on the U.S. team for such a great win. But I don't know if these guys are playing in the U.S. Open. Did you hear anything, whether they are or not?
Not yet.
Yeah.
But one thing about the LIV, I believe their second, what do you call it, match? I forget what they call it, a tournament. Is that one of the Trump courses in Jersey?
Oh, is it Trump National or something?
Yeah.
Is it? Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see what kind of local support this new tournament gets.
Well, that will be interesting because the first LIV tour event was this weekend, and it's in London. So I'm curious myself to see how the people are going to react to these guys and whether they're going to go. And even if they do play in these majors, are they going to get heckled beyond belief by loyal sports fans like myself? I mean, there's a lot to, as I said, it's kind of been ugly for golf now, and I don't think it's going to get any prettier anytime soon, too. So, but the U.S. Open is next weekend coming up.
So, quick update on your brother. The laptop he was using at Anthony's house, the battery died.
Well, that's not good. That's why they have chargers, I think.
So they're charging. So they're charging it up now. And I'm thinking to myself, Well, even a dead laptop, if you plug it in, starts working automatically.
Obviously, doesn't seem like they have their proper audio visual equipment like a power cord, I guess. I don't know.
Oh boy.
Anyway, so Rob, a lot of stuff, and I appreciate you jumping in. I know you had a late night, but
Yeah, I'm good. I was actually in bed early. It wasn't a late night last night, so I'm good.
good. So let's jump into our random points of interest, Rob. And as you know, it's sponsored by Lynch Toyota of Manchester, Connecticut. Like I said, just can't thank them enough for the support of Sports with Mono and Mono since the get-go. A couple of quick notes. We've mentioned on the show a bunch of times about baseball cards and golf clubs that get sold. Wayne Gretzky's last worn Edmonton Oilers jersey sold for a record $1.4 million. Now if I had that kind of money, that would be a jersey I'd like to hang up on the wall, because I think he's the Babe Ruth of hockey, obviously, but Edmonton Oilers jersey goes at auction for $1.4 million. Amazing. Another one, I just wanted to kind of note, longtime coach in the NFL, Romeo Crennel retired. And I remember Romeo Crennel when he was with Bill Belichick and won the Super Bowl with Bill Parcells. And he's been all over the place since. Been a head coach a couple times. Didn't have the success he did, but he's always been a classy guy. I always liked him. Solid football guy, and I wish him well in retirement.
Where was he? He retired. Wasn't he? He hasn't coached in a while, right?
Yeah, he's coached with the Browns, the Chiefs, the Patriots.
Nothing recently though. He hasn't coached recently.
Yeah, he did. Yeah,
did he?
Yeah.
Right.
And he's stepping down. He owns 5 Super Bowl rings. So you know what? You got to give the guy credit. I mean, maybe his head coaching experience wasn't great, but he's got 5 rings, one for each finger, and that's pretty cool. Here's something, Rob. We talked about this before, the value of sports franchises and what's going on. The Denver Broncos are about to be sold for $4.65 million. Billion. What does that make the New York Yankees worth? What does that make the Dallas Cowboys worth? I mean, is that unbelievable money? I mean, billions of dollars for a.
It's not even. Is Denver even a major market?
Listen, I think with Russell Wilson there now, that puts them kind of in a kind of must-see TV thing. But just from a franchise perspective, I mean, that's a staggering amount of money. I think George Steinbrenner bought the Yankees in 1973 for like some paltry number, like 20 million or something, whatever. But what does that make the Dallas Cowboys or the New York Yankees worth? I mean, or the Los Angeles Lakers or any sports franchise? Unbelievable money. But that's why it costs $500 to go see a football game per seat. Amazing amount of money. Amazing.
That meme that came out was pretty funny afterwards.
Huh?
That meme that came out, it was like the Broncos logo mixed with Walmart,
Oh, I didn't see that. I didn't see it.
Yeah, it was pretty funny.
Wow, Russell Wilson shopping at Walmart or something like that?
Yeah, it was like the Broncos logo, but instead of blue and orange, it was blue and yellow for the Walmart colors, and something like, shop, save money or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
It was pretty funny.
Yeah, what's a ticket to a Denver Broncos game going to cost now, huh?
I know we'll get to NFL later in the summer and stuff. I don't know. I just think the Broncos are so overrated right now.
I've said that all along. Russell Wilson doesn't make them immediately a Super Bowl.
The Raiders had a way better offseason.
I know, but you're flipping a coin. Is it going to be Carr's year, not Carr's year? He puts up big numbers. He's a Phillip Rivers to me. He puts up great numbers, but he hasn't won anything.
He's got
and that's going to be the key.
He's got Devontae Adams.
I know, and the Raiders have done a good job, and on paper they look like a really good team, but they can only go so far as Derek Carr can take them, and he hasn't proven to me that he can carry that load right now. So, and we'll get off because I don't want to even. I think I've had enough of Tom Brady conversation, at least until training camp starts in the summer. So, I think we're good on that front. I wanted to give a shout out today, Rob, to former teammate of mine. He's a loyal listener, Andy Carolyn, listens to the show, as his friends are all listening to the show, and he gives me good feedback. I just ran into him last week. But Andy, thank you. And, you're the reason we do the show, because you like to talk about sports, you like to hear about sports, and you don't always agree with Mono and Mono, but we couldn't value your listenership more. And tell a friend, because your brother should be listening to the show religiously as well. But good guy, Andy Carolyn. And happy belated 60th birthday, Andrew.
Hey, look who's back.
Huh?
Look who's back.
That meteor came this close.
Oh my God! It looks like you're okay though, right? Wow. Yeah, we got to get.
What did I miss?
What didn't you miss? We covered the Belmont. We covered French Open. We covered everything. The LIV tour. We covered it all while you were dodging that meteor. So,
well, I tell you, back to the LIV tour, if I could, I'll give you my opinion.
Yeah.
Dustin Johnson, so disappointed. I don't begrudge any guy making money. I don't.
We talked about it.
This is not good. And things that you wish for may not be as rosy that you think when you jump to something else. So we shall see how it plays out.
Well, I think that the gist of what Rob and I were talking about while you stepped away, Steve, dodging the meteor, was we don't begrudge these guys getting the money, but the PGA Tour is now a competitor of them, so PGA Tour has the right to keep these guys out, and that before you, again, there's going to be more and more guys going over because the money is just too impossible for these guys to turn down. So, game on, but. What I did bring up, Steve, and we know the U.S. Open is coming up. Did you hear? Are these guys playing in the U.S. Open next week?
Well, the guys that are major champions have these exemptions. So
right, and
especially
the U.S. Open, these guys have qualified, but that's not under the PGA Tour's domain. So that's why that and the Ryder Cup, which is under their domain. So enjoy watching the Ryder Cup
and all that. They're banned from it, and PGA Tour sponsored tour events.
Right.
But from what I gather, the Johnsons, the Mickelsons, they're playing in the U.S. Open. I mean, they are.
Well, let's see how that goes. But they're not going to play in the Ryder Cup, and that's going to be a big loss for those guys because that means something. Especially, we talked about it, Steve, about, the U.S. Open this year is at Brookline, the country club, right? And site of the famous Ryder Cup. And the Ryder Cup to these golfers means just as much as, the other major tournaments. So that's one thing that money can't buy. You can't buy your way back into the Ryder Cup.
Yeah, and Brookline is the site of one of Curtis Strange's back-to-back U.S. Opens. I remember that back in the 80s.
Yep.
But, this is really, it's the NFL, USFL analogy, but this has got like sick money behind it. So we'll see how it plays out. But this is a problem for the PGA. But again, the PGA has been a monopoly since the inception, really, of golf. So we got to look at this more. Yes, the human rights. Yes, the money. The Saudis that back it. Atrocious human rights. Fully get that. But it's all about the money. When a Patrick Reed and they're all chasing the money, and you can't begrudge them to do that.
I got it. We covered it. Yep. And that's also my column on JPM Sports Entertainment was this week saying, go ahead, you guys can take all the money you want, but the door back to the PGA is closed. And, the PGA does more than just, they do a lot of charitable contributions. They do a lot of good things, and that's why the compromise here is it the money, the human rights, or I don't know. I just think values and morals should stand for something, but nobody's offered me $500 million to play on that tour. So,
Right.
Anyway, Stephen, I also just before you came back I gave a shout out to Andy Carolan, who's a real loyal listener of our show, and I
Yes,
ran
he
into
is.
him, and he actually sent an email. He was asking for your opinion on St. Joe's hired Brian Gibbs as their offensive coordinator from Ramapo, son of Drew. And he just wanted to ask about your thoughts on good move, not a good move. Surprised he didn't get the Ramapo job.
I'm not surprised that he didn't get he did not get the Ramapo job. Some of our audience knows my son goes to Ramapo. Ramapo did an exhaustive search, and the guy they hired is well deserving of the gig. And I think Brian Gibbs again was mentored by his father, and I think it's a good move for him because now he has to prove himself, and St. Joe's does not hire unqualified coaches. Yeah. And if they're giving the keys to the offense to Brian Gibbs, well, he's got to step up here. But I think for Brian Gibbs, he's still young enough that this is his ascension, and if he does well, there's no reason he won't be a head coach somewhere, and there's no reason over time that he's young enough that he could possibly land back at Ramapo down the road. But Ramapo's in good hands with their new hire.
Good. Well, like I said, I mean, this is something that, Andy sent us an email at sportswithmano@gmail.com, and we love to get those emails, and it's a topic that, it's close to you and our hearts because we're St. Joe's alumni, but it ties back into Ramapo. So, as big as the sports world is, sometimes it's a small world, and, people end up in different places. And send us an email, and we'll talk about your point on the show next week.
I'd like to bring up a quick story if I can. So the Campanelli brothers, right? Vito Nunzio at Rutgers, Anthony in the pros, Vito at Bergen, and Nick at DePaul. So I coached in Oakland, and we have a kid who's in 8th grade, and he actually played up with us up until a couple of years ago because he was too big for the little guys, right? So his name is Hudson Brennan, and his father is Kevin Brennan, who I think the world of. And I spoke to Kevin during the week, and I said, well, how's Hudson doing? Because I see Hudson walking around town, redhead. And when I coached him, he was, once again, the ugly duckling stage. Well, he's in 8th grade, and he's 6'3", 285 pounds, with not an ounce of fat on him. So I said to Kevin, so where's Hudson going? And I coached with Al Natoli, who's on the staff at DePaul. And again, Nick and Vito brothers. So it got down to Vito coming to the house, Nick coming to the house, right? This is like no different than Alabama and Georgia, I'm telling you. So at the end of the day, Hudson has decided he's going to go to Bergen Catholic. And watch out for his name. He's 6'3", 285 pounds. And Vito Campanelli won this one.
Good
story.
Good for him. Yeah, that's a big boy right there. So, Steve, so let's wrap up with our notables. And to be quite honest, it's pretty short list this week, but there was from the world of entertainment, in particular the music. And I started to laugh when I heard it because it references the Seinfeld episode. Jim Seals from Seals and Crofts passed away. Right. And just so our listeners know, I think he was 80 years old. They had some big hits with Summer Breeze and Diamond Girl, and they had a lot of good. They were very, very well known in their day. But the Seinfeld reference was Jerry says to George, you thought Steve Croft from 60 Minutes was the guy from Seals and Crofts. And George says, look at him next time. It looks just like him. But He was that. Those were big hits for Seals and Crofts. That's a big loss in the music. That's a big loss in the music.
And I
That's a
believe
Simon
Seals-
and Garfunkel kind of thing,
Right.
partnership, right?
Right. And England Dan was the brother of one of them.
England Dan was the brother of Croft, I think. I don't know. I don't remember.
Yeah.
But they were big in the music business, and unless you got another notable, that's the only one I have for the week.
No, it's been kind of quiet, I gotta say.
Which is good because we had a busy week last week with it, right?
You bet.
Yacht Rock. I don't know what that means. What does that mean?
Seals and Croft, those songs are big yacht rock songs there.
Oh, okay. All right.
Love yacht rock.
I actually was listening to Summer Breeze this morning. That's how much I like that group.
And England Dan too has one or two hits in the yacht rock genre.
Yeah.
So
Steve Bush had brought that up. So listen, it's a good week when we don't have it, but just wanted to thank everybody for joining the show this week. And Steve, like I said, a lot going on with the Belmont today and the Rangers game 6 tonight. NBA Finals resumes on Monday. That's 2-2.
Isn't it amazing? An 80-1 long shot that wins the Kentucky Derby, and you look at his odds today. They're not 80-1.
Well, I don't know if you were still with us before the meteor came, but I like Mo Donegal today and Barbara Road are my two horses. So that goes off around 6:30, whatever it is. Busy weekend in sports. Thanks for joining us, everybody. And again, please send us an email at sportswithmanoandmano@gmail.com. Steve, keep your eye out for those meteors and enjoy your day.
You got it.
See you guys next week.
All right. Bye-bye.